My parents believed my husband would be a better match for my freeloading sister at their anniversary party, but you know those family dinners where you just know something's going to go horribly wrong? Well, ours didn't just go wrong, it detonated, ripping apart years of toxic secrets and finally unleashing a truth so explosive, it forever changed everyone involved. Okay, so let me set the scene. This all started with an invite to my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. 30 years, right? Big deal. And honestly, anyone else would be thrilled, but for me? I had this churning dread in my stomach. The reason? My younger sister, Diana. We're only 2 years apart, but we've never been close. And the truth is, she's always resented me. Like, deeply resented me. Growing up, our mom was super strict, military-style discipline, you know? Everything was a competition between us. Who could get to the bus first, who could do chores better? It wasn't about being your best, it was about being better than your sister. At first, it seemed harmless, just typical sibling rivalry. But then Diana started to struggle, especially in school. I was the academic one, always bringing home good grades and glowing report cards. And that made things incredibly hard for Diana. Mom would constantly compare her to me. Look at your sister, why can't you be more like her? When Diana didn't measure up, the punishments were brutal. No dinner, standing in a corner for hours until her legs gave out. I saw how much it crushed her, physically and emotionally. Mom even forced me to tutor her, thinking I could fix it. But Diana wasn't built for textbooks, she was this vibrant, imaginative kid who just wanted to be outdoors. Sitting still with a book was torture for her. I hated it. I hated being the perfect one, the example. Not only did I feel awful for Diana, but I lived in constant fear of messing up, of not living up to Mom's impossible expectations. I even tried to stick up for Diana, to tell Mom what I was seeing, but all that got me was a punishment, too. Then, right before I left for college, something happened that shattered our world. Diana did something drastic. She swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills. Thankfully, my parents found her in time and rushed her to the hospital. They saved her life. But that moment? It was like a blindfold was ripped from my parents' eyes, especially my mom's. For the first time, they actually saw the immense pain Diana had been hiding, the suffering that had been building inside her for years. It took a near tragedy, something that could have ended everything, for them to finally get it. After that, things shifted dramatically. My parents started going to therapy with Diana. They began treating her like she was made of glass, like any wrong word or a hint of pressure would shatter her. I've apologized to Diana countless times since then, for not being more aware, for not fighting harder for her. I really tried to make things right between us. But even now, all these years later, my parents still haven't stopped treating her like a delicate child. They're completely overcompensating for all the harm they did. And honestly, I don't think it's healthy. When Mom wanted Diana to go to college, Diana threatened suicide again. She just didn't want to leave home, didn't want higher education. So she never went. Without a degree, without even good grades, she struggled to hold down any decent job. It's this endless cycle of her getting hired, clashing with coworkers or missing too much work, and then getting fired. She still lives at home, doesn't pay rent, and relies on my parents for absolutely everything, food, bills, spending money, you name it. And here's the kicker, Diana isn't struggling with a major mental illness anymore. She goes to therapy occasionally, she's functional, she has friends she parties with. She's doing okay. But she does it all on my parents' dime. They never push her, never challenge her, never ask her to take responsibility. Why? Because they're terrified. Terrified she'll do something drastic again. And Diana? Oh, she knows it. She knows exactly how to manipulate that fear. So when they eventually came to me, asking for money to help with their daily expenses because Diana wasn't contributing, I had to say no. I know they're retired, their income isn't what it used to be. And with Diana living off them, their savings were clearly dwindling. But I just couldn't keep sending them money every month while my sister lived like she didn't have a single care in the world. Now, my husband knows this whole family saga. And let me tell you, he absolutely cannot stand my sister. And it's not just because she's a complete deadbeat who drains my parents dry. No, it's because Diana has made him profoundly uncomfortable on countless occasions. She constantly flirts with him. Since the day they met, she's been overtly affectionate, trying to get close, making these wildly inappropriate, suggestive comments. And if I ever called her out? She'd just laugh, play it down, act like it was all just a joke, just being friendly. What made it all so much worse? My parents' reaction. Or lack thereof. They never saw it for what it truly was. Instead of shutting Diana down, instead of supporting me, they'd completely dismiss it. Oh, it's just an innocent crush, they'd say, like a silly kid thing. Sometimes, they'd even make these subtle comments that felt like they were encouraging her. I still remember the first time my husband, then just my boyfriend, met them. We were all chatting, and out of nowhere, Mom turns to him and says, "You know, you're really funny. You'd actually make a much better match for my other daughter, Diana. You two have the same kind of humor." And Dad just chimed in, agreeing. They even said things like, "Yeah, Diana's much more fun for you." We were stunned. We thought they were joking at first, tried to laugh it off. But it wasn't a joke. Over the years, they kept bringing it up. He's so much more like Diana. They have such similar personalities. As if he ended up with the wrong daughter. It was this bizarre, twisted recurring theme. And then, it happened. On our wedding day. Right before the ceremony, my own mother pulled my husband aside and asked him, "Are you sure you want to marry Lisa? Can you even imagine that?" It was like she was giving him one last chance to bail, hoping he'd change his mind. It was crushing. Utterly crushing. I blew up. I had this massive fight with them, cut them out of my life completely. They eventually apologized, promised it would never happen again. But at Diana's next birthday, they went right back to it, trying to get my husband to pose for photos with her. We just said no and left early. We knew then. They weren't going to change. This was their pattern. Mom tried to justify it, saying Diana just had a crush because he was handsome, and maybe being around him would inspire her to set a goal to become better. My dad? He just shrugged. "What's the harm in standing next to her for a picture if it makes your sister happy?" That was it. We completely distanced ourselves. No more family events with Diana. No more visits. Just nothing. Then came the anniversary invitation. Mom insisted we come, said all the extended family would be there, and people would ask questions if we didn't show. But I already knew what was going to happen. Diana would be there. My husband was beyond uncomfortable. I mean, I love my husband, I wouldn't have married him if I thought he'd leave me for someone like Diana, but the sheer disrespect? It was infuriating. And his discomfort was paramount. I was venting about all this to my husband, and he paused, then looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You know what? We should go." My jaw nearly hit the floor. He explained, "If we don't go, your parents will make up some story about why you weren't there, and it won't make you look good. But if we go, and Diana steps out of line? It'll be the perfect chance to put them all in their place, right in front of everyone. No more hiding. No more excuses for them to spin a different tale." It was a bold plan. Scary. But incredibly tempting. So, we went. And at first, it was surprisingly normal. Mom was genuinely happy to see me, gave me a big hug, saying she hadn't thought I'd come. I just nodded and smiled. Everything was fine until dinner. We were all at the table, making small talk, when my aunt piped up, asking Diana why she was still single, half joking that she had someone special. Diana just blushed, awkward. Then a cousin playfully shouted, "Come on, Diana, spill." Who are you hiding? That's when Mom, without missing a beat, practically shouted, "Oh, I don't know if she has a boyfriend, but she's got a big crush on her sister's husband." And she pointed right at my husband, laughing like a 5-year-old. Dad joined in, roaring with laughter even louder. I felt this inferno ignite inside me. I glared at Mom, but she was too busy cackling, telling my aunt about Diana's crush that had lasted for years. Then, my aunt, bless her heart, turned to my husband and loudly asked, "Do you have any brothers or cousins Diana could date?" Some of the relatives actually laughed. And Diana? She just stood there, blushing, a slight smile on her face, soaking up the attention. She didn't try to stop them. Didn't try to change the subject. Just reveled in it. The heat rushed to my face. My blood was boiling. But I took a deep breath. We had prepared for this. I stood up, my voice cutting through the laughter, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How dare you talk about my husband like this?" The entire table fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. "You promised me, both of you, that you wouldn't cross this line again. You swore you'd respect our boundaries, stop putting us in these awful situations. But here we are, again. Laughing about my sister having a crush on my husband. You find it funny because you're just as idiotic as she is." I paused, letting the words hang in the air, then turned to the stunned faces of my extended family. "Let me ask you all something. How many of you think it's okay for someone to openly say they have a crush on their own sibling's partner? And for the entire family to laugh about it like it's a comedy show? Do you honestly think this is normal?" Nobody said a word. The silence was deafening. I spun back to Diana, unleashing years of pent-up anger. "And you? You've been acting like a pervert towards my husband for years. You flirt with him every single time we're around. You've sent him late-night texts, even though he's told you repeatedly to stop. You try to stand too close, you touch him when he's clearly uncomfortable, and then you just act like it's all a big joke." Her face crumbled. I looked around the table again. "And you all think this is funny? You really think it's okay for someone to act like this towards their sister's husband?" I turned to my parents, my voice shaking with rage. "And you? How many times have you made comments about how my husband and Diana would make a great couple? You've been doing this for years. You even said things like that on our wedding day. Do you realize how sick that is? How incredibly disrespectful it is, not just to me, but to my husband." Everyone was absolutely motionless, staring. I was so mad at my aunt for going along with Mom's joke, so I looked her dead in the eye. "Would you ever say these kinds of things about your own daughter's partner? Would you tell your son-in-law he'd be a better match for someone else in the family? Would you let your daughter act like this towards someone else's husband?" She looked genuinely shocked, then slowly, shamefully shook her head. "Exactly," I snapped. "That's what I damn well thought. So why is it okay when my parents do it to me?" My dad's face was beet red, fists clenched on the table, looking like he was about to explode. But I wasn't done. "Don't you dare say a word," I warned him. "Don't even try. Actually, Mom and your sister seem to have excellent chemistry. Maybe they should be together, too." "Nothing. Just a thought. Always invest. Right?" Of course, he was absolutely livid. My mother, on the other hand, started to panic. She tried to laugh it off with this shaky, fake laugh. "I didn't mean anything by it. Come on, it's not a big deal. It's just an innocent crush. We've always joked like that. I'm sorry, but it really is funny. I wasn't trying to offend anyone." That's when my husband, calm and collected, stepped in, delivering the final blow we had planned. He looked at my mom, a cold, hard glint in his eyes. "Oh, I get it. Since everything's a joke to you," he said, "I guess cheating on your husband years ago was just fun, too, right? I think it's time for all of us to have a good laugh." He gestured to everyone, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Come on, start laughing." My mother froze, eyes wide with terror. My husband continued, his voice dripping with venom. I mean, I guess you also had an innocent crush on the neighbor, right? And I guess when you decided to sleep with him, it didn't mean anything. It was just for fun, wasn't it? What he said was the absolute truth. It was this ugly, buried secret they'd kept for decades. Years ago, my mom had an affair with our neighbor. Dad found out, she begged him not to leave, and he only stayed for us, for me, and Diana. He seemed to have forgiven her, moved past it. But I had told my husband everything. And before we came to that dinner, he had asked if he could use it, if it was okay to use all our ammunition to defend us. My answer? You have free rein. Mom snapped out of her shock, her face contorting with fury, and started screaming at my husband. She wasn't laughing now. She yelled that he had no right, that he had crossed the line. My dad, naturally, defended her, calling my husband disrespectful and incredibly low. But I was ready. I stepped in front of my husband. You crossed the line, I told them, the moment you turned my husband into the punchline of your twisted jokes. The moment you kept defending Diana like she was a harmless child, when she's been making my husband uncomfortable for years. It's creepy. A grown woman like Diana having a crush on her brother-in-law? She's not a kid. She's a damn grown, semi-functional adult who needs a real wake-up call. Maybe a kick in the pants to finally send her out on her own. My mother, predictably, started crying, hoping to gain sympathy, trying to play the victim. But people were still reeling from the affair revelation. Then Diana finally opened her mouth, but only to scream at me for ruining the party. Oh, please, I scoffed. You always act like the victim. None of this would be happening if you hadn't started it. You sat there like a seal, waiting for its fish, letting Mom announce your crush like it was a joke. You didn't say a word to stop it. You blushed like a schoolgirl watching the quarterback. All that was missing was you twirling your hair. You mad at me? Good. Because your anger matters less than nothing to me. While my parents and Diana continued their shouting match, blaming each other, my husband and I just walked out. The yelling wasn't going to stop anytime soon, and we had done our job. We paused at the door. I turned back. It's over, I said, my voice cold and clear. Don't you dare contact us unless you grow up and are ready to take responsibility. If that doesn't happen, then don't call us when one of you dies either. And that was that. The immediate aftermath was quiet, disturbingly so. I expected more calls, more drama, but they were mostly silent. A couple of voicemails, but nothing compared to the eruption at the party. I think they were too humiliated. Everyone else, though? We started getting supportive messages, even my aunt apologized for not speaking up sooner. My husband was right, it felt like ripping off a band-aid all at once. We barely ate at the party, so we ended up at a fast food joint, debriefing over burgers and fries, feeling a strange sense of peace. 6 months later, things really started to unravel for them. Diana, predictably, kept sending creepy, unsolicited love letters to my husband. We warned her, threatened the police, but she didn't care. Then, we got amazing news, we were expecting a baby. We excitedly shared it on social media. Big mistake. A few weeks later, my husband came home from work to find Diana sitting on our porch, waiting for him. She started to get up as soon as she saw him. He immediately felt unsafe, jumped back in his car, and sped off while she ran after him, begging him to talk. The panic he must have felt, it breaks my heart just thinking about it. I rushed home, and we immediately called the police. Since we already had reports against her for the letters, it wasn't hard to get her locked up for a few days. My parents bailed her out, but she was facing trial. Our lawyer had also filed for a restraining order, which was still processing then. Our lawyer told us a criminal trial against Diana would cost my parents a fortune, easily $10,000 to $20,000, maybe more. It sounded vengeful, but honestly, it gave us peace of mind. If Diana still couldn't take no for an answer, and my parents wouldn't do anything, then justice, or at least the cost of it, would have to step in. And oh, did it ever. So much time has passed now that we're actual parents. And let me tell you, the updates are wild. The restraining order was granted, fast. And Diana, true to form, tried to approach my husband again, violating the order. My parents lost their bail money. That was just the beginning. Diana eventually lost her trial and ended up serving a 6-month sentence, plus mandatory court-ordered therapy. My parents had paid for a lawyer, a very expensive one, and it did them absolutely no good. The financial hit was huge. And then, the biggest bombshell, my parents got divorced. My dad, after decades, finally found his backbone. The public humiliation of everyone knowing about Mom's affair, combined with the financial drain and public embarrassment from Diana's behavior? It was too much. He moved out of state. My mom? She ended up with custody of Diana, not legally, since Diana's an adult, but Diana moved in with her. Both of them had to go back to work, because between Diana's legal fees and the divorce, their savings were gone. It's almost unbelievable. The rest of our family has completely sidelined them, too, no lending money, unfriending them on social media. And social media, ironically, helped spread the word. Our town knows exactly who my parents are now, and who Diana is. They couldn't even rent a place easily after losing their house. Mom's moved a few towns away, but Diana can't leave the state. And us? Life is so much happier. Diana is still nearby, but she has a record and a restraining order. Not even she is stupid enough to risk more prison time. I never imagined that anniversary party would lead to all this, but here we are. Stronger, more united, and finally at peace. Thank you all for coming along on this crazy journey. It was rough, but sometimes, you have to burn it all down to build something better.